Travel called and a ball turned over here. And Coach, your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Well, we're looking at some very different styles of play again. We've got some zones, some presses. We'll see probably some more maturity when it comes to the style of play even. Obviously, you look at Central with 5 senior athletes as their starting lineup, a little bit different from the game that we just saw. And obviously a lot of experience and a lot of maturity on the Riverside as well. So this might be a little bit more of a chess game in terms of coaches' adjustments and not necessarily from the coach's perspective. Obviously there's a lot of experience in both games, but more so from what they can do with their athletes' understanding of the game.
That's a great point, and I know they know each other well from so many games the last couple of seasons. Some of the leading Central characters have changed through graduation, but for the most part staying the same here. Kira Blundell, a player of note, who's returned to the team for the first time since her grade 10 season here. And there's a triple. Jayla Huyn. So a quick 3-0 lead.
It's a great way to get scoring started for Central, establishing that outside shot, and especially for her to get into a rhythm early as a shooter. Now you have to find her. You have to know where she's going to be. So again, a lot of this is going to be establishing different scoring lists from different athletes and then what the defensive adjustment is going to be.
Both of those guards so dangerous as well. Ankita Chopra, number 3, dead-eye shooter as well. Wynn able to bat the ball forward, but Riverside keeping possession. Wheatley inside hurls up a shot. And underneath as well, the traffic there for Malia Mendoza, number 13. Blundell, I was just going to get to, has returned to the team this season. She's a Whitecaps soccer player in their academy, a high-ranking player. And it's not often the Whitecap players are playing high school sports, but apparently I heard she did a PowerPoint to the Whitecaps explaining why it was important for her to play high school. That's my kind of kid right there.
You know what? Who would not want a kid like that in your team, in your program? You know, mentioning this with some other coaches, like we talked about, university coaches sit and watch these games and talk about different athletes. And, you know, one thing that we lost a few years ago was just the multi-sport athlete. Yeah. Often athletes have to kind of pick their sport for a time there, and to see a high-level soccer player just is so much fun to watch. Athletes who've been developing other sports, you know, just the way that she moves and some of the things that she does, establishing herself as a basketball player, great athlete. And that's sometimes what the game is missing, is the great athletes, not just the great basketball players.
I love this. I completely agree with you. As we're talking about Blundell, we set that one up. She fades on the baseline, knocks down a short little jump shot there. 5-0 for the Wildcats. Shot hoisted there by Riverside, doesn't fall. Blundell headed to Arizona State next year to play soccer. But boy, she complements that front line. Wheatley reaches in there as Chopra tries to get loose and the foul called. Central has some physical frontline pieces with Blundell added along with Colombe. And the player whom that pass was intended to is for Sophia Morton. And there's Avery just making it look easy.
Well, and that's a great way to get that other three-point shot. You know, being able to go to those and one type of movements, baiting, you know, Burnaby Central to try to throw over top of that zone press. And again, Avery just sits back and like a football safety, steals the ball, and there she goes. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of their defensive series impacts Central's ability to get good scoring lists without turning over the basketball.
I love doing football where I can use basketball analogies, and I love, you know, doing basketball when you can use football analogies.
How did I do?
You did great.
Thank
That
you.
was awesome.
Appreciate that.
There's Wynn. She is guarded closely by Mendoza. They go to the floor, and that's Morton wrestling for the ball. So many interesting conversations you can have about how Avery Sussex fits on the basketball team, why she fits, and all the things she brings to a team. Just chemistry and positionally. This time she's going to pull up for a three. Colombe looking for Blundell.
One of the things that I love watching a soccer player do is how she gets her body ready for contact before she catches the basketball. Again, those skills aren't really necessarily taught in basketball, but the way she spins with the ball, like sometimes I have to make sure there's not a soccer ball on her foot as she's doing some of those moves. So again, the joy of seeing athletes from other sports and some of the things that they do, and you know, volleyball players and soccer players and field hockey players, they add a different dynamic to the game.
Wow, and it's so funny because Chris Ducharme on the first day of this tournament, the Burnaby Central coach, I'm talking to him and he's talking to me about Blundell, and as he's talking to me, I turn around and I go, which one? He goes, her, and she's doing, you know, dancing with a ball on her toe, and she's pretending it's a soccer ball, and just reminded me of Steve Nash when I saw that. But I completely agree with you. The cross-training aspect, everything as an injury prevention kind of thing in this sport would be huge. Underneath, Sussex in the post. I love the feel she has down there. Ties the game at 5. Blundell, oh, I thought that was going to go instead. Wheatley tracks down the rebound.
So whereas the previous game went up and down quite a bit despite the score, this one is potentially grinding to a halt if both teams get into bonus with 6 minutes into this first quarter.
5-5, low scoring start here. Georgia Hart, grade 11 forward. Thrust into a bigger role last year due to injury on this team to her sister. And that's a great shot there. Quinn knocks down the long jump shot.
Again, her getting going early is such a good sign for this team. But again, punch for punch. Getting Avery started early is also a great thing for Riverside. So again, is it going to be about the secondary scores? Is it going to be about the amount of turnovers? You know, who can generate offense from what perspective? And so far, you know, Riverside's game plan is the sooner we can get the ball back under pressure, the harder it's going to be for Burnaby to get good scoring looks.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And Georgia Hart converting off that zone pressure to make it 12-8 now Rapids. Blundell's going to pull up. That's just inside the three-point marker. Three-point arc, rather, and comes away shy there. Sussex is scoring every which way here. Pivoting, throwing it into the post to Wheatley. Number 13, Malia Mendoza underneath the basket. 5'5", grade 11 guard. Riverside, the only team I've seen in North America that puts their first and last names on the back of the jersey. That's kind of an interesting touch. It's almost it's beyond European soccer even, it seems. Midway mark of this opening quarter, just passed. Of course, the winner of this game is going to get the Seaquam Seahawks. Chopra for 3 from the baseline, doesn't go. Chased down by Mendoza. And here comes Avery.
Such an important part of, again, if the press doesn't get you, do you get a second chance on missed shots? And so far, Riverside has proven that the defensive side of things creates what they do on offense.
And they'll continue to grind defensively. Chased by Chopra there.
One of the challenges that any opponent has when you're facing press or different press of some kind is the defense forcing you to play faster than you want to. And I think that last take by Ankita just shows a little bit of a rush take. She might have had a little bit more time to finish that. But again, as they play longer and longer into this game and you start settling into it, you'll realize maybe I did have a little bit more time for that finish. So again, the maturity of a group of grade 12 athletes versus grade 9s, you know, you're talking about individual athletes being able to make the adjustments versus just the coaches. So again, that's why some of these games are fun to watch, because you are playing, these are two very experienced rosters in terms of athletes who've gotten a lot of games under their belts. They understand. And again, you're looking at matchups. They've played each other quite a few times. So this, like I said earlier, it's a chess game where it might be punch for punch, but that's kind of the game that we want to watch anyways.
Oh, or punch for punch thus far as Blundell puts one off the front of the iron. Georgia Hart with the rebound. And as Cheryl has pointed out, whoever comes through with the win here, it's going to be a contrast of styles with a very young Seacklem team tomorrow. Mendoza looks for the cutting Sussex off her fingertips. Burnaby Central calling for time, and they will get it. Nice to see Burnaby Central getting back. Well, actually, you know, in all my years of covering sports, I don't know that I had covered a Burnaby Central girls varsity team that had been a provincial contender until this time. So it's neat to see different programs. Burnaby South on the boys' side has really risen. The Burnaby High Schools, South, North, and Central, we're not known for a lot of the championships and teams. I mean, track and field was another thing for Burnaby Central, but it's great to see this Central program kind of taking off here. Chris Ducharme, a great coach. Nice to see.
And oftentimes, you know, you have athletes that started in youth programs back in the day, you know, when they're grade 7, 8. Allison McNeil, saw her in the hallway kind of mentioning where she first saw some of these athletes starting as really young ones, and all of a sudden they're seniors. So time flies pretty quickly, and you know, you see that progression of athletes from walking into rec center, starting at a young club level, you know, moving into the high school system, moving into high performance and, you know, secondary clubs, and just some of the things that they're starting to do school teams. But again, like, just the overall development of these teams is so much fun to watch.
Coming under the timeout now, Burnaby Central. See if their strategy session with Coach Ducharme pays some instant dividends. Blundell right down the floor, and she's going to score it. I don't know how much basketball she actually played over the last year, but sure, certainly looks like doesn't look like she's taking time off. Fox able to score down at the other end, or Hart rather.
She's probably actually more comfortable as a soccer player playing against a zone press and understanding gaps versus man-to-man even. And so you saw that development of that press break where she gives up the ball, makes a cut without the basketball, gets it back, and that's probably like scoring a goal. So, you know, with Riverside, that give and go, I mean, that's so tough to defend if you're not communicating and playing well as a team. So we'll see which strategy, you know, finds a way to maybe push the lead a little bit more for Riverside here, or if, you know, one or two outside shots. We haven't seen an outside shot made for the last little bit when it comes to either team. So, you know, again, game 3 of 3. Are we starting to see some fatigue when it comes to outside shots, or are we being more selective?
Well, here's Jayla for 3. Just off the mark. Cologne gets the rebound, can't finish it. Sussex quickly down the floor to Mendoza. Puts on a move. And they're going to call a blocking foul there. So Mendoza steps up to the free throw line. Ella Ricketts, number 4, with the starting group now into the game for the first time today, the 5'8" senior forward, wearing number 4.
Middle.
Cologne pass out of the double team now quickly to Chopra, who's been quiet in this opening quarter. Of course, the team's only got 10 points thus far. She'll inbound here with 15 on the shot clock, quickly to Morton up top. Blundell looking for teammate on the baseline, batted away, and right down the floor come the Rapids. Georgia Hart scores it. Turned over again to the Rapids.
You know, they're able to to get into the heart of the defense in the middle. It's just those turnovers on that back line that's really hurting them. So, you know, Riverside is doing a great job of forcing them into those really rushed secondary passes after they've raised the initial press. And so, again, all of a sudden now we have a 9-point lead, and 1 or 2 turnovers can be pretty costly in a game like this.
Yeah, Riverside not missing there. As Sussex posts up, scores it, and now sends a ball down the floor for Mendoza. Tries to put some backspin on it, a little bit too much mustard on that. Couldn't finish it.
She's had some great looks at the rim, and again, like with the ability of Central to have multiple scoring looks again, are those going to be costly at the end of the game? You have 3 or 4 kind of rim attacks that could have scored on one send. So, and now here Ankita's going to the free throw line. So,
final 36 seconds of this quarter. Chopra will stand in at the free throw line. Annabelle Neufeld and as well Henna Verk, number 21, coming into the game.
Kind of talk about a different contrast where you have, you know, the only grade 9 on Riverside's team coming onto the floor now versus, you know, the previous game where quite a few athletes on both teams were either in grade 9 or 10. So.
And Riverside used to be one of the only teams that would have 9th graders on their team. They'd have 1 or 2 and you go, wow. Well, things have sure changed. Chopra out and Huyn will come back into the game. Blundell inbounding to Morton. Valome across court, she goes to Ricketts inside. Morton gets her own miss and can't finish it there, but contact comes to Sophia Morton down low. So Sussex with her second foul.
That's a tough one to get. 20 seconds left in the first, and now, again, coach's decisions. You know, but the difference between a grade 12 with 2 and a grade 9 or 10 with 2, again, coach needs to know their athlete fairly well. So we'll see what Coach Langford decides to do in the second quarter.
I think he's got a lot of trust in Sussex, as we saw last year at the provincials, but a great point to make just how a player handles that situation. Here's Avery. Sussex makes good on the first. Blundell with 2 seconds to Morton. Sophia shot off the mark, and that'll do it for the opening quarter of play. 19-13, first quarter in the books here. Our Final Four clash of the night. The winner tomorrow will play the Siakam Seahawks. We'll take a short break and be back with the start of the second quarter from the Langley Event Center in just a moment. getting ready to start our second quarter here. Howard Tsumura along with Cheryl Jean-Paul as we bring you the broadcast. Final one of the night here from the Langley Event Center. Of course, tomorrow will be Championship Saturday. 3 gyms will be used to play all the consolation games throughout the early morning. 3 o'clock for our Select 16 final, 4:45 for the championship final, the Super 16, of which the winner of this game will advance.
All right, Cole. All right. Just take a step out. Take a step out. I warned her attack. Sorry. Yeah, no, you're fine. I gave her a warning.
3 seconds in the key call there. It's a little tough way to start your first offensive possession of the second quarter, but
Said there was a warning given. Sussex very quickly fed inside and lays it up and in.
it's great to see the layers of her game again, even as a smaller guard, posting up and winning that positional battle. So again, like knocking down outside shots, getting to the free throw line on rim attacks, but then also posting up. I mean, that's a tough matchup.
I love to see that completeness in players and the way Sussex does it. There's Annabelle Neufeld finishing off on the break. Jayla Wynn back to, whoa, a beautiful triple hoisted there, and Vovia Colombe with a big shot for the Wildcats.
You know, she really needed that, and I think their team really needed that.
Ooh, but then there's a, you said punch for punch, and there comes Annabelle Neufeld.
Well, I think Riverside has been getting 2 punches per punch from Central, but
I think they called it a combination in the Sweet Science, and that's what Neufeld did there. That was a big shot, and whoa, from the other side, once again, Vovia Colombe knocks down a triple.
well, now we'll see if they can get a defensive stop. You know, they've been working really hard to get and handle the pressure side or pressure of Riverside.
Well, Avery tries to go right at the Burnaby Central defense. She's stopped inside, and Blundell double clutch lay in there.
Well, that's not a soccer move.
Pure hoops. Sussex, oh, I'm loving this. Are you liking this tempo now? They're just trading hoops.
I'd rather see this than free throws, so.
Boy, after all that kind of silence here in the offensive department, someone swung the back doors open to the gym, I think, and let a big breeze in, because all of a sudden these teams are hitting threes, getting up and down the floor, and we're seeing some offensive flow.
But again, on both sides, you know, Central needs to understand that if you're going to allow Riverside to set up their press, then you're going to have to deal with their press. So, you know, they've been attacking a little bit more. And obviously, knocking down back-to-back threes helps. And again, like we talked about those second chance opportunities in the previous game, but the value of an offensive rebound in this team. So Blundell is really, you know, kind of taking the team on her shoulders right now and creating with tempo. That's how those 2 shots were developed.
Annabelle Neufeld, oh, she gets an incredible shooter's roll there. In, out, and right back in for her second 3.
That's a great way to break a press over top that way. So now again, the decisions are, what are you going to give up? Riverside has no problems playing at this tempo, and neither does Central, but they're going to have to stop a few things to handle the balance of the turnovers that they've committed in the first quarter against the press.
Give underneath to Morton. They're both teams missing on their last 2 attempts here. Neufeld to Wheatley. Campanile with a 3, and she knocks it down.
That's tough. Good ball movement, great shot. And again, we talked about this at times where if you don't have to defend all 5, your top players have a hard time getting their scoring looks. But when the ball moves like that and someone just knocks down that 3-point shot, I mean, that's tough. Now, again, it's forcing them to have to decide, how do we stop the entire team versus thinking that, you know, if you handle Avery Sussex, who's not even on the floor right now, and here she comes back. But in the time that she's on the floor, the team has scored multiple times. And so, again, we talked about the development from a younger team to an older team where, you know, a really critical player comes off the floor. What happens?
Yeah, they just kept it going here, and there is a shot there by Huynh, who falls shy. Sussex on the baseline. No mistake there. 15-point lead here. Great job there by Mendoza, jumps in front of it. Gets her team back down the floor. Neufeld feeling confident with the 3, but has missed her last 2. She did hit 2 in a row. And my apologies on the mispronunciation of McKella's last name. It's Campanelle, number 5. And she's the one who hit that 3 we were just talking about. 38-23. And Burnaby Central certainly would love to get the offense going, though. I mean, Riverside's so explosive.
Well, sometimes when you have that ability to score in bunches, all of a sudden you look up and you're like, wow, we were just down by 9 and now we're down by 15 and now we're down. So it just, again, like understanding that playing with tempo, you have to keep track of what's happening while you're playing with speed. And I think Riverside does a great job of pushing the ball through their full court pressure, whatever they end up showing. Like, they don't tend to respond. They're not, you know, wallowing in self-pity if you get scored against. Like, within 2 or 3 seconds, you have to find the next shooter. So they've done a great job, and we talked about that mistake response and the difference between a younger team and an older team. And obviously with multiple players hitting outside shots, and you have Avery Sussex that's showing kind of the full breadth of her offensive game as well. You know, you do have to have multiple things that go well to beat a good team. And so, again, you know, it's a 40-minute game, and Central has shown that they have the grit. They've shown that they can, you know, score in bunches themselves, especially in the second half. They've had some slower starts already in this tournament, and we've seen Riverside score tremendously in the first 2 or 3 minutes in some of their games. So, you know,
like yesterday, exactly, getting off to a huge start. Wynn missing that one. Campanelle now down the floor. Big rebound by Kiera Blundell. Chopra can't score it. Blundell swirls in and out. Here's Avery now, back down the floor, guarded by Jayla Wynn. Avery gets into the heart of the defense, the whistle blows, and Wynn getting called for the foul there. Guarding Avery, no easy task, obviously, as Wynn knows. Here's Neufeld with the inbound play. Mendoza trying to stave off that over and back, but it'll go to Burnaby Central.
Being able to capitalize on another team's mistakes is going to be critical. Obviously, Riverside has shown that they create turnovers and they score those turnovers. So we'll see if Central can get something off of that back over center call.
Here they go. Want to make it count with a big 3, and it's just off the mark. Cologne with a nice tip to keep it in possession. Chopra now for 3, and she makes it count. So as you point out, Cheryl, off of that play, cashing in with a 3 ball. His Sussex wants it right back, doesn't get it. Here's Chopra again, this time takes it to the rack, can't score it. Gets another chance underneath, this time back up top. And Wynn will tee up a 3.
That's all right.
Neufeld in the corner. Mendoza will tee it up from 3, right over the goal. Campanelle somehow finding a way to keep it alive for her team. 9 on the shot clock, and Sussex puts up the 3. Avery just dialed in.
Yeah, they're giving her a lot of space on that ball reversal, and I don't know if you want to dare her to shoot that shot.
It sure looked good when it's gone down today. Underneath they go with Chopra. She gets the ball right back. Blundell skips it underneath to Morton. Sophia, one-on-one down in the block, can't finish it. And you were saying Burnaby Central would have to do multiple things well, right, to kind of bridge the gap here. Perhaps that's not the case right now.
You know, sometimes when a team goes on a scoring run and you're getting good looks that are just not dropping, you're realizing that you're trading really good misses for good scoring looks. And so, I mean, right now, you know, it's still 14, 15 points. You know, you look at 5 or 6 really good scoring looks that they haven't put on the score sheet. And but again, you know, if you let Avery Sussex kind of then knock down the next one and the next one, like you're never going to catch up. So it'll be interesting to see if they can find a way to. Blundell's really been kind of the tempo of this team and getting things going, and some of the scoring looks that they needed to get, they're not getting right now. So does the game plan change when you're getting great scoring looks that are just not dropping, or do you try to find something different? So Riverside has proven that, again, they're doing multiple things well. They're boarding hard, their press is working, they're getting turnovers, they're knocking down open shots. And it's not necessarily one person that's doing all of those things. It's a collective group effort. And again, that's why sometimes when you look at the difference between an older team and a younger team, you're seeing the maturity of knowing and being able to execute what each person is supposed to do versus, sometimes younger teams, they may be able to know what they're supposed to do, but whether they can execute it or not, that's the challenge. But that's the difference between being 16 and 18. So.
And that one by Central is a N1 opportunity here for Vobia Cologne. Number 12.
I think for Central, a goal getting into the second half is, can they get to a single-digit lead? Can they get to a 2 or 3 basket deficit versus looking up and saying, well, we're going to have to get 5 consecutive stops in a row, which hasn't happened yet. So, and with Riverside, it's this press has worked. They're starting to show a little bit of gaps. They're starting to show a little bit of fatigue, but can they make sure that the smartest take is the one that they get? So, again, like coaches that know their teams really well and know when to push and when to slow down. So,
Blundell.
So we'll see if Avery decides to answer back. And she does.
Wow. When you lend that perspective to what Avery's doing, it just seems even more just lethal, the way she's able to step up and just deliver right in that context. There's a 3-ball attempt here from Chopra over the goal. Blundell had the rebound, couldn't finish it.
Well, essentially what Central's allowing to happen is that everything positive that they've been able to do, they allow Sussex to negate. And so, and not only negate, but negate within literally 4 seconds. So, you're working hard to climb back. You finally get a great scoring look. You have to back that up with understanding what someone like Avery Sussex is going to want to do within that next little stretch of time. So it's, again, we talked about this, even though these are some older teams, it's still early in the season. And there's some good lessons to learn about how to climb back, how to keep a lead, how to maintain good scoring looks. What do you have to do to make adjustments? So it's, again, we're looking at high-level basketball in December.
Yeah.
This hasn't been necessarily a 30 turnover game that we're watching. Like, we're seeing some big shots being taken, some great drives, great creation scores. And now it's cleaning up some of those other things, but that's why it's December.
Yeah, you got to agree with me, I'm sure. Avery's game is advanced to the point where it's just, I mean, when she does stuff like that, she's got something else on her mind, too. There's an agenda that she just doesn't want to let the other team get any confidence, and that she wants to be the one that kind of drives the stake. And that fuels her, doesn't it?
I mean, that killer instinct, again, is that understanding of what momentum looks like. She's allowed Central to have a one-shot momentum swing. And well, maybe 2 halfway through the quarter. But the reality is, then it feels like you're just always climbing uphill when you can't gain those 2 or 3 or 4 scoring looks in a row. So it really is the psychology of a great player, like understanding what your opponent needs to gain confidence, and she's not letting that happen.
You're writing my story for me as we speak, and I thank you for that. A rebound there by Riverside. Sussex with the outlet quickly down to Hart. There's the skip to Wheatley on the baseline. Nice defense played there by Morton, but the whistle is going to blow. Well, Burnaby Central does the job defensively. I just noticed Santa Claus is right on the baseline now, enjoying a nice view here as we get closer to Christmas.
I think we may need to note how long our scorekeepers have been here, doing a great job, by the way.
Oh, and we do tip the hat to all of them from 8:30 this morning in both gyms till now, Cheryl. It's so true.
And you know what? When the refs can concentrate on what they're doing and they don't have to constantly be coming to the bench to make for corrections, that it just allows both of these teams to focus on the game, and it allows the coaches to focus on the game as well. And yeah, so you can never be too appreciative of a great scoring table, because it just allows everyone to play at their best and do their jobs well.
Yeah, and the ones that do it with pride are so fun to deal with. Great runner there from Blundell.
We talked about whether they could make this a single-digit lead coming into half, and obviously now again we've talked about Avery Sussex's ability to punch back pretty quickly and negate some of the positive things. So we'll see if that's how this quarter finishes out.
Sussex on the other side of the floor. Didn't get a touch on that possession as she signals over to the bench. I don't know if head coach Paul Langford just wanted to take her out for the final 47 seconds, but she kind of waved him off, so.
Well, I know you've written much about the trust between player and coach there, and that communication that they have. Now, Central has put Jayla back on the floor, so we'll see if she can finish this quarter, maybe knocking down another 3 like she did at the beginning of the game.
I'm just so impressed with Blundell and her poise and consistency around the basket. Another basket there for her makes it a 10-point game.
Well, she moves in traffic really well, and again, we kind of talk about those multi-sport skills and just her ability to use her body through contact and then decide what kind of finish that she needs to use. I mean, it is an athletic toolkit that she uses, and it's fun to watch. And we'll see what kind of scoring look they finish off with here, too.
With 7 seconds remaining, shots up, it's close but doesn't fall. Second chance there for Raycroft. And underneath, Wheatley able to get the bucket there. So it's going to be is that the score correct? 46-36, 10-point game at the half here. And where does that position us for the second half? I mean, are they disputing the score? Yeah,
Nope.
There it is. I thought it was 10 points before. It's a 12-point lead.
Yeah, they just needed to confirm the amount of time these teams get at half, and again, you're getting on to day 3 of games. Half times seem probably shorter and shorter as you get from game 1 to game 2 to game 3. So it'll be interesting to see the adjustments that the coaches make. I think Central had a little bit of a run there in the middle of the second quarter, and I think they can build on that. But it's really about whether they understand the ability to get a great scoring look and a stop. And I think with Riverside, they use their press fairly early to give themselves a little bit of a cushion. And now what happens? Do they go back to that? Is that something that they need to maintain their lead? And obviously foul trouble is always going to be a factor. We have key players on both teams that have either 2 or 3 fouls. And, the tempo of the game has been good so far.
Yeah.
The fouls themselves have not really dictated the ability for either team to get up and down the floor. So we'll see what ends up happening with different things. Like Jayla looks a little bit frustrated in terms of the shots not dropping.
Yeah.
And, a good 3-point shooter just needs to let that last one go. So,
Well, and games I've seen with Chopra and Gwynn have just dominated from outside, has just gotten them going, and we really didn't see a lot of that. So clearly Riverside was able to take that away. We'll take a short break here. 6.5 minutes to go to the tip of our final half of the day here at the Langley Event Center. Stay tuned. Back with more in a moment. And we're back with you here. Getting ready to start our final half of the day here at the Langley Event Center, Day 3, TBI 2023. And the girls' tournament has unfolded with some incredible play here over the first 3 days. And I thank everyone for their kind words regarding the draw this year. And nobody was upset with the games I got. At least they didn't tell me they didn't want to play that 8:30 game in the morning. But really competitive. Virtually everybody ranked in 4A and 3A is here this weekend, so it's a real gathering of the best early on in the season. 48-36 our score. And a lot of talking points, Cheryl, as we get set here, but clearly we want to see how Riverside continues to kind of punch back any kind of momentum Burnaby Central's trying to build in. The main culprit there, Avery Sussex, as she gets her team underway.
Well, you know, the format of the tournament and the location and everything, this is a great tournament for teams to get an early look at what they're going to look like in the same gym as the provincial championship. So just a lot of really good factors that can often sometimes throw teams off. You know, they don't know the location, they don't know the gym, they don't know. And here, you know, you start getting used to the sounds and kind of the location and the times of the games. And so it really is a great practice round for a lot of teams to see what playing 4 games in 4 days is going to look like on a university court, right? And that's where, you know, the differences between some high school tournaments and that kind of thing is just even the court size, right? So it just allows you to understand the fatigue that's very different than playing in a smaller gym. And, you know, the difference between having really, you know, the fan space and just, you know, the ability for a lot of people in the basketball community to kind of watch games. And I think obviously you've made this tournament very accessible for everybody as well. And, you know, just being able to have a lot of people influence, you know, just the nature of the game in terms of the crowds. And, you know, obviously LEC, the Langley Event Center, does a great job with just all the different other aspects of the game as well. So it's just a great opportunity to get a test run a little bit, and for coaches to come away from this tournament saying, okay, what did we not handle well about that? You know, and for some of the out-of-town teams, it gives them that opportunity to, you know,
build routine, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where are we going to eat our team meals when we come here to provincials, and what hotel are we staying at, and some of those things that can throw off younger athletes sometimes. And now you've had a test run and realized, oh, okay, you know, when we have that 8:30 game, we got to figure out when we're eating supper the day before. And when we go from an 8:30 game, you know, in one day, and depending on how things go, we may have another 8:30 game the next day. So.
Yeah, a good dry run for sure. And in the meantime, the basketball fans, and there are such great fans here. We see some people coming to start the day and just going from gym to gym, enjoying themselves and their own dry run to get ready for March Madness. Malone with a jump shot there. That's not going to go for Burnaby Central. Sussex looking for Mendoza back up top. Avery gets it back, a deep three, and bingo for Avery Sussex. Avery dialed in here today.
Her ability to hit that deep three really, you know, Central hasn't necessarily made that adjustment to how far do they come out to defend her, and every time they step out a little bit further, she just backs up a little bit more. So
yeah, that's got a bit of a dagger there. She dropped that one, 53-36. Central wants an answer, and they get it. Win from the baseline corner.
Yeah, she needed that one. And again, we kind of talked about the difference between, you know, finishing down 8 at half versus all of a sudden letting it creep to 12. And now, again, are you able to get multiple stops to climb back into this when Avery is knocking down those deep threes? So it is kind of learning the psychology of the game when it comes to knowing how to recover from some of the challenges they had in the first half.
Well, Blundell will pull up from 15 and come up shy. Campanelli now into the game for Mendoza.
She made her presence known pretty quickly in the first half, coming in, knocking down a 3, getting to the rim. So again, like the value of players coming off of the bench, understanding exactly how they can impact the game, makes such a huge difference, because the offense keeps on going when it comes to the style of play that Riverside has.
Yeah, just understanding, at this level, understanding your role and how to keep that going, as you say, very important here. And Annabelle Neufeld with some fingertips to get that ball in her team's possession as they came down the floor, and it ends up with Hart at the free throw line. Coming up shy on a couple of there, so there's back-to-back stops now in essence for Burnaby Central. Saving the over and back. Blundell with some great hustle. Chopra. Blundell a walk right into a 3-ball. Campanelli falling backwards helps Riverside get the possession. Wheatley cross-court. Avery again for 3. Oh, Avery Sussex. Not even touching iron on her last 2 threes. Yeah, getting a full force Avery is a tall task to win a game when everything else is working as well.
Well, you know, in the first half we talked about trading good misses for big shots, and now, you know, Central's not necessarily getting great looks, but they're still trading for big shots.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, like, the ability to climb out of a hole is hard against a team that has multiple players that can hurt you. And again, Avery she's shooting the ball so well right now that you're going to have to decide again. This is where, what's your defensive strategy going to be? Like, it's not like that's the only thing that's hurting them, but that's definitely something that's not allowing them to make this, you know, necessarily not, I'm not going to say not a competitive game, but again, to get back into that, can we get to a single-digit lead? It's going to require a little bit more. So we'll see if the game plan changes. And oftentimes we forget that this early in the season, sometimes coaches don't actually want to show a ton. They want to have a solution for Riverside at the end of the season. So, you know, trying to gather some information on each other. There's that element of some of these smart coaches that need to show something, but maybe not too much.
Yeah.
What do you want to work on, and how long do you show it, and do you sneak some things in? And you know, it's just that's why basketball is so much fun sometimes, even from a coaching perspective, of just knowing how to compete. And these tournaments are great precursors to figuring out how do we defend them well, where do we struggle with, can we take some notes? We've got some great film to look at, you know. But some of the things that we need to take away in today's game are going to be the things that they're going to have to take away in future meetings, obviously, as well.
A 3-pointer put up there by Hart. Rebounded underneath by Wheatley. Other than the 2 threes that Avery has hit, Burnaby Central has gotten some stops here. Maybe I'd say 4 out of the last 6 times down the floor ever since we mentioned that, stringing together multiple stops, but that lead's still at 15 here. Central a bit challenged on their own, although Morton did knock down a short jump shot, as you saw a second ago. Avery's going to rip it away there from Vobia Colomb. Keep it at 15 here as we approach the midway mark of this 3rd quarter.
So that was Vobia's 4th foul on that
Oh, I
play.
didn't realize that. 4 fouls.
And so now again, we're looking at how do you climb back into this, and you know, critical player picking up her 4th halfway through the 3rd quarter. You know, there's so many different elements of how to climb back into it, but that could be costly for them. And we'll see if Riverside attacks that as well, right? Like, looking at understanding if you're going to keep her on the floor, you know, how can we draw her into making a mistake defensively as well?
She is guarding, so not specifically, but was on Sussex there for a moment. No, she is going to follow Avery around here. Great look down low. Hart able to score it.
Such
Central.
a patient look, great way of just...
Chopra for 3.
So again, you know, you look at something that great guards have to learn how to do is that when they're taking a little bit of a break, they can still find offense through other people. And, you know, Avery Sussex has found quite a few really good looks. And then, you know, as she's settling down a little bit, slowing down the tempo a little bit. And then again, now just shutting the defense. So
Campanelli, she is effective shooting that three-pointer. Well, Riverside looking like Riverside, what we remember last March. In multiple ways. Annabelle Neufeld guarding there, knocked down a couple of threes already today. Great little dish by Blundell, opens Morton up for the jump shot, gets the rebound of the miss, can't get the finish. And in a crowd, they're going to score the basketball on the baseline. Avery again. Avery just looks so at home, Cheryl, scoring the basketball in a crowd. Anytime there's some impending physicality, she seems to really enjoy that. Yet then she goes out and hits threes like nobody's business. Just really complete here in her senior year.
but again, if we remember, you know, the development of her game, similar to maybe where Jordan is now, you know, understanding that being a younger player that was trying to find the same look over and over again, and now she's finding that balance in her game. She goes from knocking down a three to creating a great, easy scoring look for a teammate, to then getting to the rim, three-point play. I mean, that's a player that understands how the game develops, and knowing that you're not picking and choosing your battles, you are creating great scoring looks for your team.
That's a great way to put it. Morton, a basket off a nice dish underneath, I believe from Wynn. Fading, Sussex isn't going to get the roll there.
And now she's going to back down post moves. I mean, it's fun to watch.
.330 left in this third quarter of play. Here's Blundell for three. She takes a lot of shots. Oh, and a great job there. Blocks Campanelli's outlet. Oh. She wanted a call there for some contact while she made that shot, but.
You know, what's interesting, again, we talked about the maturity of different players. And again, who's playing the score right now? You know, we don't see Avery looking up at the score. She's playing the game, and she's trying to get her team scores as often as she can. Blundell's also not looking at the score. She's playing the game, and she's competing hard. And again, you look at, you know, there's still 12, 13 minutes left in this game, and so much can happen in that short period of time. And so, you know, there's some frustration, like a little bit of shutting down, a little bit for some of the players. Fatigue is starting to set in, and both teams have played some tough games, but sometimes your legs feel a lot heavier when you're down by 15.
Well, she's dished a couple of dimes to Hart on the baseline. This time she'll stick a three, and she'll knock it down. Chopra right in your face. Back pedals with confidence. She looks more mature and complete than I've ever seen her, like even in the provincial final. I mean, she's doing so much stuff here today.
But you know what, when an athlete understands what they can and can't do, and when you have so much that you can do in terms of the skill set that she has, you know, and again, like we're talking about what teams are going to have to do to defend her well. You know, but again, you take away one look and she has another look, and you take away that look and she's got a counter move. And you know, she's learned that the hard way, as most great players do. They took this away and I didn't have a solution, and that's kind of that evolution of a great player.
Isn't that something?
You know, and there's going to be more that she's going to add to her game over the next calendar year as she faces tougher competition going into the next phase of her basketball career. So.
Oh, it sure is fun to watch today. I just in awe a bit here of the way she's commanding what's happening. It's a 20-point lead here after the basket. This time coming up shy.
Ooh.
Ray Roycroft hitting the deck there, gets up with a smile on her face. Kaylee Jack, number one, now on the floor. Her first appearance of this game. Jack, a 5'4", grade 11 guard. Jayla Huynh to Blundell. Timing off a bit here as Chopra puts up the 3. Rubio with the rebound. Inside they go. Hart stands her ground, gets a piece of that one. And they'll call a jump ball here.
You know, there's a lot of really hustle plays that are happening with both teams. Volbia needs to be careful on some of those, though, reaching in for that offensive rebound. She is playing with 4 still. So, you know, those are, again, we kind of talk about the maturity of knowing, you know, Avery stays on the floor with 2. She tells coach, I got this, don't worry about it. And she's proven that it wasn't an issue. So, again, we talk about that understanding what you can and can't do depending on the situation. So it's again, seeing great players foul out of games when they're frustrated, when they're younger, and seeing the progression of understanding I can't do that when I've got 2 in the first half. Or, you know, I need to stay away from this when I get 3 or my 4th foul. So
an offensive foul, I think, called on Chopra. Little out of control on that one, just a little too frenetic, trying to make something happen for her team. Hannah Verk now into the game, number 21 for Ray Roycroft. Some changes on the floor, obviously, for Riverside, but Hart and Sussex, the real engine room of this team. Avery down the floor, down to 45 seconds left in this quarter. Verk with the basketball, back to Avery. She'll take another 3. Jack with a good job to steal that one, and Riverside will walk it back up the floor. It's about a 2-second difference in the clocks here as we get to the end of the 3rd quarter. Sussex into the paint. Shy follows and gets it to go. Georgia Hart unable to finish it off here at the end of the 3rd quarter, though, 73-51. And I guess we look at the process of what unfolded in that 3rd quarter, and we wondered, you know, in terms of making up ground and all the little things that went into that you had to do well, and Burnaby Central unable to do it. But I guess Riverside's not the easiest nut to crack, obviously, and they're showing themselves to be a real quality team tonight.
Well, you know, it's understanding how costly early mistakes are in a game like this, but then also against an opponent like Riverside. So, you know, they show the press early in the game to establish, you know, just throwing off the timing of the other opponent. They hit some early 3s, and then they really struggle to get some good early scoring looks. And so now, again, I mean, they haven't necessarily had to press now because the damage has already been done. So it's about missed opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, you look at some of the early game rim attacks that Central did have that they weren't able to capitalize on, and now all of a sudden you look at those 10 points and saying, man, we probably could have used those at this point. So now you're trying to find new ways to score because the other team is understanding what you're trying to do to score. So again, it's not just about the momentum, it's about this built-up tolerance to what your opponent is doing. And obviously with a player like Avery Sussex, you know, she's going to have a solution for herself. You know, what you need to figure out is that, are you going to focus on what she's doing and try to take away some of those scoring looks, or, and again, every time that they have allowed her to give up the ball to someone else has hurt them. So, and again, this is a team that's been figuring this out for years now. And again, we talk about the younger ones and how much fun they're going to be able to watch. And this is the result of this kind of team, right? Where, you know, you see them have some early disappointments, and again, early, you know, whether it's exits from provincials and saying, this is not going to happen to us again. And now the result is a team that understands its strengths and what they have to do to win a game.
Isn't that something? You know what? You're so right about that. Planting the seed of doubt early with what you're able to do with that press and all that kind of stuff is just puts an extra level of pressure on you to try and make up the difference here.
And we've talked again about what Central's had to do kind of in the span of this tournament to win games, and having multiple players hit a few threes in a row to kind of gain that momentum has been part of their identity, I would say, in this tournament. So, you know, not letting or not being given the opportunity to hit multiple threes multiple times in each quarter, you know, and then missing some of that easy stuff. And again, at the very end of that quarter, you give Avery Sussex a scoring look. She doesn't make it, but then she's able to put it back to score. So it's tough to keep battling through. Like, you want to take away their best scoring looks, but then some of those ones are just hustle plays that you have to finish the play out.
73-51, and everything is collective in the end here. Riverside has done a terrific job. Right now, the lead looks absolutely daunting here.
I think there's times where this now becomes about who do you need to become to be able to get these games in the future? Like, is this we have to be better defensively, because there's going to be some games where the shots are not going to drop and we got to figure out how to still win those games, or is this going to be a live or die by the shots that we can make? So, you know, it's an interesting challenge for teams to figure out. At a provincial championship, you're likely not going to have 4 great offensive games in a row. Can you rely on something else to help you still win that kind of game? And, you know, like Riverside has 73 points with still 8 minutes left. And, I mean, they could still pour on a lot of offense over the span of the next 8.5 minutes. So
Neufeld missing with a 3. Vobia Cologne split the defense here for a lay-in last time down the floor for Burnaby Central. Here's Chopra, she'll knock down a triple. So a little mini 5-0 run here. Avery looking down low. Trying to find Hart down there. Mendoza will make an appearance. She was one of the starters in this game. Lot of subs on the for Riverside, but Hart and Sussex remaining a constant with this group, whoever's on the floor. Mendoza back up top to Avery. Alandi van Jaarsveld getting called for the foul there. Trying to set a screen there at the top. So Burnaby Central again taking over. Off the miss by Chopra. Gwynn gains possession again. Here's Ankita on the baseline. Back up top around the horn they go to Blundell for 3. That one won't find the mark. Sussex, tough turnaround shot, doesn't go. Blundell with the rebound. And in transition, that's Chopra able to score the basketball. Wheatley takes a tumble, and foul getting called against Morton.
It's not necessarily a bad foul at this point. You know, it doesn't send them to the free throw line yet. Maybe slows their momentum down a little bit. That doesn't help.
The home run ball down the floor, though, is intercepted by Mendoza. Bit of an adventure here for Van Jaarsveld as she gets her team back up the floor. Sussex now in command with the basketball. From 15, Wheatley underneath with a rebound. Off her hip, she turns around with a little hook shot. Chopra thought about another 3, this time takes it inside, and I think Avery's going to get called for the foul there. Sussex foul number 3 in this game. Or did they say 4? Got 4 up there. I thought it was her 3rd.
All right.
Burnaby Central beating Riverside last season, very close to the start of the provincials, from what I remember. And big win for the Wildcats heading into the provincial tournament. So they're going to face each other a number of times. I'd love to know what Sussex has in the game now. She's had a very productive outing here for the Rapids. Win. No chance on that drive.
You know, it really becomes about how few mistakes can you make at this point in the game. Obviously with Riverside, it's not necessarily taking too many risks in the terms of needing to take bad shots. But then with Burnaby Central, it's can you afford, you have to play with a little bit more risk, but you also can't afford to make mistakes. So again, like trying to understand what it takes to win now this kind of game. You know, you've got a 16-point deficit. With multiple three-point shooters, sometimes it's not always as big as we think it is.
Exactly. There's a 3 ball off the mark. Burnaby Central, another opportunity to inch closer here. Of course, this Riverside team is coming off a loss heading into this tournament. They lost to Argyle last week. And I think that might have lit even more of a fire. Here's Blundell for 3. That's a big triple.
Bigger foot on the line there, so that was a deep 2. But
oh, it's a 2, okay, yeah.
But again, seeing the ball go through the mesh sometimes is hopefully a little bit of a boost of energy. So right now they're not necessarily stopping Riverside, but Riverside isn't, well, I was gonna say not knocking down some of their scoring looks, but what do you have to take advantage of? Either you're getting stops or you're scoring off of their misses. And those aren't always necessarily the same things, right? We're not talking about stealing the ball or whatever. It's just taking advantage of a great defensive rebound. So, you know, at this point, punch for punch really doesn't help you. You got to look, you talked about those combinations. And now at this point, you know, if Central can go on a 2-for-1 type of run where they're scoring twice for every time Riverside's getting a good scoring look, now all of a sudden this game could be exciting to finish.
It's a 10-point game here. Big run from Burnaby Central. Great job by Chopra getting down the floor and finishing. Really aggressive nature here from Burnaby Central.
Starting to see a little bit of frustration now.
And they will indeed take a timeout. If you're Paul Langford in the group there, what are you talking about right now? Just
relax.
Relax. Take a breath.
You know, and I think, again, like, what are you relying on to kind of give you your composure right now? Is it because we haven't made a few shots, or is it because, you know, haven't made, well, I would be frustrated if we've given up a little bit of a 7-8-0 run right now, knowing that, what are you doing? Are you not pushing anymore? Like, is it the tempo of the game you're slowing down? They've obviously had a few deflections from Central's perspective, so they're now creating, we talked about that, it's not just about Riverside missing some shots. Now it's about them actually getting some deflections and some stops. So, you know, again, that's a good timeout. Just regain composure. We've got a 10-point lead. You know, we can't give them 5. Like we talked about this. Riverside was not allowing them to go on 2 or 3 scoring runs in the first half, which is why they maintained that 15, 16-point lead for quite a little bit. Now, all of a sudden, they've had 2 or 3 scoring looks in a row. And now, again, good timeout to remind your team, how did we get here in the first place?
Yeah.
Not giving up 2 or 3 scoring looks in a row. We need to find a way to get a solid defensive stop and not let them gain momentum. Now, again, you're looking at a team that's playing with maturity as well. Central's been down for this entire game, and yet they're starting to find their rhythm. So,
well, they come out of the timeout and they give up a take right to the basket there by Colombe. And all of a sudden, it's an 8-point game with 4 minutes left.
Well, now again, it's what is Avery Sussex's response to a run from the opponent's team now? And it's that trust of allowing different people to get good scoring looks. Now, Georgia ends up scoring back-to-back baskets here, and just like that, you go from having crawled into a single-digit lead to now potentially pushing it back to 15, 16 points. So, again, game of runs, but who needs to own the runs for this game to go in either team's direction?
Annabelle Neufeld. Inside they go. Neufeld misses in close. Quinn up. That was Sussex guarding her down the floor. See, now it's her fourth foul. They had definitely had 4 on the board the last. See, now they're putting 5 on.
We might need to get a tutorial on how to remove fouls that were accidentally put on earlier in the game, perhaps. But again, a good thing to learn for provincials in a few months' time.
So that is her 4th.
And we talked about, is there a risk with Vobia with 4 fouls picking up Avery, and so far it's been paying off.
Yeah. Yeah, she's played focused basketball and remains guarding Sussex with 3 minutes left in the game. Here's Roycroft. Hart goes back to Sussex. And Avery doing what she needs to do. Chopra loses the ball, tries to rip it away from Hart. They'll call it jump ball.
What's interesting about that last Riverside offensive sequence is, you know, Central is showing her a few different defenders. They're trying to take away the post up by allowing a post to, you know, pick her up, and then they go back to a guard as she comes out, and then she just finds the mid-range. So, again, like some of those tools that she didn't have in her game a few years ago, where trying to play the same way against every different opponent, and now recognizing that, okay, when it's Vobia defending me, I have this look. When it's, you know, when it's Sophia Morton that has to pick me up, I have a different look. And then, you know, if there is any confusion, then I'm splitting the two and finding the scoring look in between them. So, it's, again, like that ability to play that kind of basketball at that next level, which is always fun to see a player, like we talked about earlier, adding new elements to their game. So now you know, she's recognizing who has foul trouble and really trying to force the issue with that as well.
Great to watch her and her understanding of the game, as you put so well, Cheryl. It's just fun to watch her with all of that added context. Here is Blundell inside.
And again, Sussex, careful not to pick up her 5th foul on that, but could be potentially costing a stake. And so, again, you go from a missed opportunity. Blundell, unfortunately, does miss that one, but sometimes a 3 at this point in the game is better than a 2. Well, it actually always is better than a 3 at this point in the game than a 2.
So a turnover here with Mendoza, and
so
Central.
Jayla hasn't hit a shot for the last little bit, and we'll go a little bit longer for a little bit of travel there.
Annabelle getting called for the travel. She's incredulous about it. Central wanting timeout. They'll get it here. And getting inside the head of Avery Sussex through your eyes has been enlightening today, Cheryl, and it's just neat to see someone bringing that level of understanding to every situation on the floor and really picking that up and helping her team win with that kind of intuitive kind of play. And I guess, as you said all along, it does prepare her for the next level. She'll be playing down south next year, and she'll bring a lot of good stuff to wherever she's going. It's going to be down in California, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, oftentimes we see younger players, you know, do something really well. But at the next level, you have to do multiple things well for you to be competitive, and especially against longer athletes or players that are doing exactly what you're doing at the high school level. So it's all about, again, what's that next level of your game that you're bringing in? And, you know, for her, you know, what does the defensive matchups look like in her future? What does that look like as her as a defender? You know, that mid-range that she's gone to, you know, once or twice, does she develop that a little bit more? You know, again, style of plays. How does she adapt to the style of play of her team next year when she's played within this system for so long? So, you know, there's just, those are the next level of questions. But, you know, again, there were questions last year that she's answered, and there was questions the year before that she's answered, and just goes to show you how much time and effort she's putting into her game, that she's answering questions that maybe weren't solved in last year's provincials, but they're getting solved this season.
Yeah. So Morton with a lane makes things a little more interesting here. Time, the huge enemy here now of the Wildcats, who are playing their best basketball of the game right now.
Well, and this is where, you know, we look at having gone from 24 to 30 in the last little bit for high school. It becomes tough, you know, for a minute and a half. That's essentially only 2 possessions, and the team can dribble it out. And so, you know, the team is going to have a defensive plan of how to get the ball back a little bit faster without necessarily forcing free throws.
Rebound, get in!
Mendoza now at the stripe, so tough to make up the ground they need here. Minute 12 remaining here as Mendoza now taking the second one. So 1 of 2.
That's you, Bobia.
Inside the Wildcats go. Morton tried to rip away the offensive rebound, couldn't get it.
Stop ball.
Sussex to Hart, to Mendoza, now to Neufeld. Under a minute remaining. We're down to 45 seconds left in this game. The lead at 9. And Neufeld, time to think about the 3. She'll pull back here. Shot clock now down to 5. Sussex calling for some help. And she's going to be displaced to the ball. Morton takes it over half court. Here's Valome, nice cut to the basket. 86-79. It's going to be too little too late here for Central. Blundell trying to corral that one. Finds a way to get that to go, but this late rally is going to fall short. 86-81. Ends up being a 5-point game.
And a very high-scoring one after what was our first quarter score?
Oh, very, very low-scoring start to this game. But the Riverside Rapids find a way to get to the final tomorrow. They'll play the Seacom Seahawks. A learning moment here for Burnaby Central, and as you say, experience continues to pay off for Riverside. As you look at that matchup tomorrow, Cheryl, what are your thoughts on Riverside Seacom?
You know, it's really going to be about how Seacom handles same things that Burnaby Central struggled with today, like the press, like the ability to work in the gaps, defending multiple shooters, and obviously handling Avery Sussex.